All right, y'all. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Most High for allowing this to actually happen. I'd like to thank my brothers here, Ooze, Big Ooze, Uzael, my brother Benyamin, my partner. I know this took like a year and a half, but we actually got here, and this is our first episode. So we want to make sure that we start things off right. And what's on your mind today? Besides the topic that we're going to talk about, but besides the topic, you know, just in general, what's on your mind today?
Well, I know, leading up to what we're going to talk about today, I know the BET Awards took place a few days ago, and, you know, also dealing with the world that we're in now, where everybody's doing, you know, their thing virtually,
Right.
you know, social, you know, have to be distance and everything, but you can see that the world just adjusted. Even with music and entertainment, everything just automatically adjusted with the times. So we just see how the flow of things is just going overall in the world.
Gotcha.
What's on my mind today is that there was some defunding of the police department. That's just a joke. I don't think that, personally, I don't think that you should completely defund the police department.
I don't know if it's I think the word that they're using is not complete. I think when they just say defund, I think they're reallocating money and they're just taking it away from the traditional uses. So
Right.
I don't know if it's exactly a defunding, like, okay, we're just gonna take money. They're just reallocating it to different things. So I don't know, but that's just my opinion. I don't know if the term is what the term that they're using is really legitimate for what's going on. It's really like they want to put money into more youth programs or things for the community, as opposed to just, you know, giving the police more tactical gear or whatever the case may be. So.
But at the same, I mean, you have people that talk about defunding and then people that talk about abolishing. So
Exactly.
you have two thought process.
I don't know if we want to abolish police, but you know.
I mean, they tried it in that enclave in Seattle, so.
Exactly, which a lot of people are trying to shut down. To the topic, because this forum is mainly about hip hop, and we want to make sure that people understand that this is about hip hop. But I want to make sure that we stay relevant to what's actually going on. And the topic I want to discuss today was the hip hop's voice, or the voice of the industry during this George Floyd uprising, or the uprising period. And with that, I want to start off with a question, or maybe just an opinion from you guys. Just, who do you think has been the most or the strongest voice at this time in the industry concerning all of the situations that we've been having with racism, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, everything that has been happening? Who do you, in your mind, do you think has been the strongest voice that's already in the industry? I'm going to say my opinion for last, but, you know, who do you guys think that's really been in the forefront right now?
Personally, I think Killer Mike really said some strong words. Also heard T.I. But I believe Killer Mike said the most, he put the most intelligent perspective on it.
Right.
He gave the feeling that most people from our generation and I would say youth would, you know, the sentiments that we felt as a community as a whole. You know, he spoke of his father being a police officer,
right.
And you know, he got cousins. You know, so it didn't come from a place of hatred
right.
towards the police, but it came from a place of frustration as to what we've been going through for all these years. Because obviously, you know, his father's a police officer. Right. He doesn't want anything.
Right.
Was a police officer. He didn't want. He didn't want anything to happen to his father and his cousins.
Right.
You know, who seem to be police officers. You know, he doesn't. But it comes from a point of frustration. You know, like I know people that I love and I care for that are police officers.
Exactly.
But, you know, I believe Killer Mike put put the strongest.
And I'm gonna get back to you because there's something that I saw on TV the other day, actually last night. But I'm not gonna jump ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Your opinion.
I mean, in terms, unfortunately, I would just say that, like, opinion. I would just say, unfortunately, there's not a singular voice. Not that you need to have a singular voice, but right now there's not a singular voice in terms of our culture overall that's really trying to lead the charge. You have people, making statements here and there. You have people that make songs, and amongst the various generations.
Right.
Little Baby had his song that he put out that encapsulated the moment. So that's for the current generation of hip hop artists, and then LL did a thing on his Instagram page, which everybody, of course, will go viral. So you have various voices, but you don't have in my opinion, a strong charge in terms of how we would recognize when we were the current generation of hip hop, where you had your BDP and your Public Enemy and people like that, your X-Clan. There's not that type of.
Yeah, where's BDP? Where's Chris at? I mean, I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard anything from him.
It's because it's not that they're not making statements, but you have to catch their statements on Instagram and Twitter.
Gotcha. Okay.
But because we're not the current generation of hip hop,
right?
That
I got you.
A lot of their messages aren't filtering down to what societies. So people are focusing on going back to the BET Awards where. The Baby and Roddy Ricch did the remix for Rockstar, where they basically Black Lives Matter remix.
Right.
So the current generation of hip hop, that's they're looking for their people to say something. Right now.
So my opinion, I just have to concur with Ooze, Killer Mike, and I say Killer Mike because he was an activist before all of this stuff happened.
Right.
And he had the same messaging, and now it seems like because of all of the things that are happening, his message is kind of being heard better, it's being understood a little bit better. I don't know. What I said was I didn't want to get ahead of myself, but there was Oprah did something, or it aired last night, 100 Black Fathers. 100 Black Fathers.
I glanced at that.
Right. And I had to watch my show. I had to watch Greenleaf, and then it came on after Greenleaf. But it was important that everybody spoke, and I got everything that everybody said, and it was touching. But when Killer Mike spoke, as a person that's in the hip hop, me and him are probably, he probably similar age to what we are. He came from a perspective. I think one of the main things I got from him was he talked about him not fearing the police or whatever because he came from an all-black situation. So he doesn't have it in him to that interaction with white people. Not that he hasn't, but he came from a place where, he was proud to be black, family members are black, his community was black, so he had that understanding, but he translated something in particular that was important. He talked about how, regardless of whether the skin color of the police is black or white or whatever, they become agents or workers for the state. And what they do on behalf of the state. And now you have people operating for the sake of what the state wants and not actually what's right. So a lot of times when you see black people being caught up, black officers being caught up in different situations, it's because it's their mandate, not really what's in their heart. And what a good thing was, they did have an officer on, I think he was LAPD, very spiritual brother that was talking. And he talks about how he brings his faith to the job, and which is important because it allows him to be kind of balanced when it comes to him dealing with the people on the job, dealing with the public. Wow. People ask why he went in and took a knee, and he said that he had a conversation with God. God told him, if when you went to marry your wife, you took a knee. When you pray to me, you take a knee. So if you're doing the work of a servant, that's the type of work or position that you take. So it kind of made it seem like he had an understanding or epiphany about why he's doing what he's doing, in contradiction to a lot of the people that he works with. So I think Killer Mike, to me, is just taking the biggest stance Or maybe he's not taking a stance. I don't want to say taking a stance because he's been doing this, right? It's not like something I'm all of a sudden standing up, whatever. He's been doing this. So I think it's a matter of now the rubber's hitting the road when it comes to him, where he's bringing a message, or he has brought a message already about certain things, and now it's something where he needs to be heard. I mean, he's been on Bill Maher's show, he's been on other shows, he's been on forums before, but now it's like, okay, we want to really hear what you have to say because you've been a person that has been talking about this for quite a long time. And I want to segue into something else. I just hinted towards it, and I just said, where's Chris? You know, where's Chuck D? And I'm pretty sure Chuck D made his statements, because I think they came out with another song not too long ago. Right. But why that 90s revolutionary hip hop, right? That voice that existed, the X-Clans, the Public Enemies, the Brand Nubians, you know, why has, I mean, I have my opinion, but why has that voice dwindled so greatly? Why has the industry gone such in a skewed manner where everything is kind of the same, and those people who really brought those strong messages about Black pride, Black nationalism, you know, even Arrested Development, like, you know, we don't hear music like that as much anymore, you know, and it kind of keeps us off guard when it comes to these situations where nobody's talking about a lot of this stuff. When Chris talks about Black Cop and, you know, even LL when he did a legal search, those things are very relevant to what's happening now, but the music that we get doesn't really speak to the situations that are happening in our lives. And those people who were able to talk about that, you know, they're not getting the play like they used to. So just your opinion on why we don't see that anymore, or why rappers are not rapping in that fashion anymore. You know, is it the industry? Is it the people? You know, is it the consumers? You know what I mean? The audience? You know, what is it?
So if we listen to radio, right? When you have radio have this thing called programming.
Right.
So throughout the years, when we were coming up, P.E., Chris, Rakim, Brand Nubians, this was the golden age of hip hop. Like that came, these guys had their messages that the radio played. They were part of everyday programming for hip hop. And you know, during those times, hip hop wasn't prevalent during daytime radio. We had to wait till the nighttime for the shows, you know, weekends or whatever it might be. So these were the guys that were our influence, Video Music Box. We saw the new videos. So these guys were really revolutionary, and we were influenced by them, and they had a message. Right? As hip hop came along, the 90s, you begin to see the quote unquote gangster rap. NWA, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre. We began to be programmed to conform to this type of music. And the industry began to push that type of music.
True. But one thing, like a lot of that music wasn't played on the radio at that time.
Yeah, but you went through the puffy, you know, dancing with the suits on, with the flashy suits. It kind of evolved to a certain point to where then the music went to the South, right, and then it, you know, it went to the Midwest, and you know, it kind of stayed in the South for a long time to the point where now New York rappers sound like summer rappers. Exactly. So that programming, right, that the radio stations and the industry pushed out there, silenced the voices of those political rappers. You had what was the name of the group? And I don't know how I'm forgetting them. Dead Press.
Exactly.
You had groups like that were really dope MCs. Right. You know, that were really dope MCs that Talib Kweli and Mos Def. Right. You know, like these guys were really thinkers. Right. And guys that could really talk would be the voices for this era, but they were silenced because people wanted the They wanted the trap music, and they wanted, that kind of rhythm. Even I believe Jay said in one of his songs, he said something to the effect like, he said he would love to rhyme like Common Sense.
Right.
He said lyrically he would be Talib quality, but that's not what the industry wants.
Right.
So I think the industry itself kind of silenced those voices. But that's my opinion.
Got you.
Yeah, because overall the industry started to streamline. You talk about the late 80s, you talk about into the 90s, there was versatility in the music to where we was listening, and we had the opportunity to listen to everybody.
Exactly.
But now, as time goes along, money was always part of any, it's always part of any business. But once hip hop sort of focused strictly on money, then that was the route that the program started going into. So now you had the bad boy era. If you notice, the bad boy era really changed hip hop overall, because now you talk about strictly money.
So are we really blaming Puffy for the downfall of hip hop?
No, I wouldn't blame him.
Not the downfall, but the
change, right? Yeah. He's part of that transition, because the bad boy era. That's why I don't want to just focus on him, but you had the whole bad boy era where it was focusing strictly on money. You had people talk about money before, but then now the talk is money. Jay-Z, money. Everybody talk about money and cars and jewelry, and that just became the pattern. So now, and not to just throw another organization in there, but not to blame it also, but that was when the rise of Hot 97 came into play. So now with the rise of Hot 97, and they're focusing on certain artists, and that's became a huge station in New York, where stations around the country were following the program format of Hot 97. So when you had that focus of just the money artists, then it wasn't that necessarily that certain artists were silenced, it's just that room wasn't given to them. And then there's another aspect that I forgot who brought this point up also, but now when we were listening to the radio in the 80s and 90s, DJs had their mix shows. That's when we was able to hear the versatility. We heard different people. But now DJs that have mix shows, they're given programs. They're told what to play. So it's taken away from a DJ's ability to break artists, to push what they think that the audience needs to hear. And now the DJs are just playing what music is played throughout the day anyway on their mix shows.
So Common Black America Again album. I caught the album. I thought the album was brilliant. He talked about a lot of social issues. But is there a room for hip hop like that still? I mean, Common can do it because Common gets a check from acting, right? So if he goes and takes that route, that's cool, and it may not be a financially, I don't want to say expedient, but it's not like, okay, I'm gonna make this record and sell you a million copies, and you're gonna be banging my stuff in the clubs. But it's still a necessary record, right? It's necessary for people to get that information. It's necessary for people to know that, there's rappers who still conscious, who still are out there. It's not to say that the rappers who rap about the things that they rap about are not conscious, right? Because it is a business, like you said. I believe it is a business. I do believe that people are taking that route. But at the same time, if a person wants to do that, take that route and talk about something conscious, shouldn't their record sell just as much, or how are we looking at rap now? Is everything about what's popping in the club? Is everything about sex, tamale, whatever the case may be? Is it all about that, or is there still an audience for people who want to listen to music that teaches them something, or uplift their spirit in a certain way, or gets them in a revolutionary mind state? Is there still room for that type of hip hop in this world? Because I believe that I'm a better person for having those rappers around or saying those things during my time. Even the brothers that were 5%, they were still saying something positive, right? They were saying different things, but it gave you a sense of culture, a sense of positivity, a sense of self, and it kind of gave you direction. I mean, you got to think about how many people became 5% because of Rakim, or because of Kane. How many people joined the Nation of Islam because of PE? People went that route just because there was somebody representing the music or representing that aspect in the music, representing that aspect of the culture. So is there still room for that? Because I think we need it. Even though you have people, they're rapping about it now because of the situation and it's prevalent now. But can there be room for consistent art that's pro-black, that's pro-conscious?
Yeah, there's always going to be room for that. It's just that the artists that are making that type of music, they have to find the avenues to have the music played. Because if you're looking for mainstream radio to play it, and that's your main focus, and you're not looking at the other avenues that may stream it or play it, then you may be wasting your time. True. But there's definitely room for that, for positivity. Music is a spiritual thing.
Right.
So when people hear music, it's going to touch them one way or the other. Like you say, because you grew up listening to certain artists, it may help you become the person that you are.
Right.
When you have teens today listening to the type of music that they're listening to today, it shaped them to be what they are, because once again, music is a spiritual thing.
Right.
So there's going to be room for different types of messages. It's just that there has to be an avenue to put those messages out. And what's lacking, the versatility, the spirituality, like you mentioned, the 5% movement was heavy in hip hop.
Right.
The Nation of Islam movement was heavy in hip hop because artists took on to those things and brought those messages. It may not be up front, like this is what you got to do,
right,
but they brought that righteousness. Righteous talk was always
some
in it.
artists just said it. PE said a follower of Farrakhan, and he just said it. You know what I mean? So they just put it out there.
You understand.
Yeah, until you hear the man, so he just telling you his position where he's at, and I got S1Ws who are like FOI anyway.
Right.
He just let it be known. But you have artists that did that.